All righty. So we have an amazing thing planned for you right now. How many of you guys have something called social media? Like drop a 1 in the chat if you have social media. Like who doesn't? Like this is the biggest part for me of how I've been able to share Plexus. I'm sure it's the same for you. Every one of you should be dropping a 1 because we all have a social media account, but it doesn't mean that we're always using it to the best of our ability. Kind of like fashion. It's like we all wear clothes, but some of us know how to really kill it with our outfits. My brother growing up, he was obsessed with Bruce Lee, who's like a ninja person guy. Well, anyhow, I read this quote by him today, and I thought about this for tonight, so I'm going to share it. He said, "I'm not afraid of a man that knows how to do 16,000 different kicks. I'm afraid of the man that knows how to do one kick that he did 16,000 times." And so what that means is when you become an expert in something, you are killing it. So the more you can learn about social media, the better you're going to do. So Jenna Huttula has said that she would get on with us tonight. She's a Diamond ambassador. She and I got to do Super Saturday together this year. So I'm super grateful for her. I love her story. I know you've seen her before afters floating around. So you're going to recognize her and you're going to love what she has to share about personal branding. Jenna, thanks for doing this. And I'm going to mute because I'll talk like too much.
Hey, thank you so much, you guys, for letting me come on and just joining us tonight. So I want to jump right into this. One of the things that I love to do is like, you want to make sure you do have your pen and paper. All right. And the cameras are on. I love seeing faces. I want to see who I'm talking to. So I don't care what you're wearing. Just if you don't have a bra on, it's okay. Just do a head up. Okay. We don't need to see all that. All right. So I'm excited because one of the things that we have discovered over the last couple of years post-COVID is that social media is such an intricate tool and a valuable tool that you can use to create massive momentum within your business. Now, you've seen people wield it well, and you've also seen people wield it not the best way possible, right? But I want to tell you a couple of things. And I want to share really briefly with you guys tonight, just a little snippet of my testimony and how it really intertwines with social media. See, if we had been friends 3.5 years ago, my pages were all locked down. If we were not real life friends, if we were not going to church together, if our kids weren't in sports or ballet or dance or co-op, you would have had no access to any of my family stuff on Instagram or Facebook. And I just thought, you know what, that social media stuff is great, but it is not for me. I was so busy doing all the things. Well, at the time, all of my things were managing autoimmune issues. I was chronically exhausted and fatigued. And the best I could do was hope to manage my symptoms. And that's where I was at. I've known about Plexus for over 8 years. Let that sink in for a second. And I just want you to hear this. Don't ever stop sharing. People are watching. Their win, when they're ready, is going to look different. So 8 years ago, I saw a post on Instagram from a girlfriend of mine. She was swimming 100 miles, you guys, and she was 9 months pregnant. I was 9 months pregnant, and I couldn't even walk to my mailbox. So 2 totally different experiences. She looked fantastic. She was beautiful. She had her baby. I had my baby. She recovered and lost weight. I didn't. I got worse and worse, and I got just beyond sick. And it wasn't until I had done and exhausted everything. And when I tell you everything, I have done it and tried it all, and it didn't work. So 3.5 years ago, I was hiding the fact that I was so sick and I was so tired and I was bald. I was wearing wigs to hide how sick I really was because I didn't want everybody's opinion. See, my news feed at the time was very negative. I had everybody just dropping all sorts of stuff, and I didn't want one more person's opinion. But when you finally have that one person that's just a little too negative, a little too often, you tend to break. And you might not always respond to the best way possible. Well, I feel like I did okay. I came out on Instagram and I snatched my wig off and I was like, listen here, heifers. As like our friend Genevieve says, this is why I'm wearing wigs. It's not because I'm vain. It's not because I love spending excess money on things. I'm spending wigs because I'm sick, I'm tired, and I'm bald. Now I'm spending all this money on wigs and I'm broke because I was spending money on stuff that wasn't working. You know what? My friend who'd been sharing all those years, she was the first one to reach out in love and ask, are you okay? She didn't reach out and, hey, girl, me a message. I got what you need. You need this Plexus pink drink stuff. No, it was done from a position of servanthood and love. So her thing was, are you okay? What's going on? And that opened a dialogue for us. Now, my right timing wasn't then, but it was 5 years later when one of my very best friends secretly started using this pink drink. She was using it. She was never going to tell anybody about it. Same thing. But her Instagram is fantastic. It is beautiful. It is aesthetic. You can go there and you want to dream of living on a farm with these baby horses and cows and little chickens. And you have these immaculate dreams of, oh, wouldn't that be beautiful? And it's fantastic. So she knew how to leverage Instagram and social media, but it wasn't network marketing, wasn't her thing. So she was never going to be one of those girls, right? You guys have all seen them. The ones who do network marketing, not the way it should be done, not the way it could be done, and definitely not the way that it should be happening, right? So what I ended up finding out was that as she was healing and her journey was transforming, you could see it in her social media feed. All of a sudden, her face was showing up in selfies. She looked great. Her skin was clearing. Something was going on that she wasn't yet ready to share with the public, but she did reach out in private and she shared what she found that was working for her. She didn't make me any false promises. She didn't tell me this was going to be some miracle cure drink that I just didn't had to sit on my butt on my couch and drink this pink drink and ta-da, you're healed. No, she shared what was working for her. And this is what I want you to hear. Because I know her, I love her, and I trust her, I believed her. She didn't give me false hope, but she gave me hope for the first time. And it made me think, what if this works for me like it is for her? What if it works for me like it is now all these testimonials I'm hearing about? And the long story short, you guys, is 3.5 years later, I'm not sick. I'm not tired, I'm not bald, and I'm not broke anymore either. Can I get an amen? Right? It took time. It took consistency. It took drinking my water and taking my stuff. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. And so one of the things that I quickly discovered was that becoming a product of the product was essential. It was the fact that I lost 70 pounds in 2 years. Yes, you can see that transformation in photos. And y'all have seen that before and after bikini shot. I'm like, oh my gosh. But do you know the backstory of that? Probably not. See, that photo was taken 3 months before I started Plexus. I was on a family vacation and I was in that little bikini because nobody's ever gonna see all that gloriousness. Never. It's okay for my husband. It's okay for my kids, but not a single soul. We were on an island in the Keys, like there's nobody around. And my kids took that photo. I saw it that night, like we do. You scroll through your camera roll. I deleted every single one of those pictures. I cannot tell you today how that photo still exists because every other one was deleted. I was mortified. In my head, I thought I was rocking that bikini like J-Lo, which is not a bad thing, right? But the reality of it is I saw that and I realized how far I had slipped and how far I had gone backwards. But the reality of it is my nutrition was dialed in. I was taking expensive probiotics then. I was on countless medications. I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing. It just wasn't working. And that photo for me was a reminder of where I was and where I didn't want to be anymore. But when that photo came back around 3 months into my journey, My husband found it in his camera roll. One of the kids had texted it to him before I deleted it. So it's the only photo that I have of that time of my life, because I was always really good at taking selfies. You didn't ever see a full body shot like that. Nope, wasn't happening. And so that photo, when I released that photo for the very first time, I blocked every pastor on my friends list. Yes, you can do this. Okay. You can share images and you can make sure certain people don't see them. So I was like, I'm going to go to church with this man and that man. And then like every man I think I went through. And I was like, nope, nope, nope. I don't want my pastors to see that. But in that sharing moment, I was doing a couple of things. I was being authentic. I was being vulnerable, and I was being real. So I want to share with you some things that I'm seeing that are really incredible opportunities for you to leverage social media to make a huge impact on other people's lives. The income follows after the impact. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So when you're sharing, your voice matters. What you have to say is important. People can smell what you're cooking in your kitchen. So if all you ever do is copy and paste a bazillion other people's posts, you slap your picture on it, I am here to tell you eventually they're going to figure out you don't have 7 kids. All right? They're going to be like, wait a minute. Mary only has 3 kids and 2 dogs. That doesn't add up. Right? So your voice matters. I want you to know that you do not need a bazillion followers on any social media platform to be an influencer. You already have influence in your home, in your family, in your community, in your business. But how are you using that influence? What are you doing with it? And how are you adding value to others? In sharing on social media, having your voice can be so simple. And sometimes it just takes the courage to tap into what that voice sounds like. I want to share a couple of things with you guys tonight, a couple of questions that I have for you about finding your uniqueness. Now, I love this, that when you tap into your uniqueness, you cannot be stopped. You actually become unstoppable. What makes you unique are the things that you're passionate about, the things that you love learning about. So let's start there. I have a couple of questions for you. Okay. So number 1, your first question is, how are you tapping into your uniqueness? And when you tap into your uniqueness, did you know that you can exploit it to serve others? I want to say that again because it's so good. When you tap into your uniqueness, you're doing it to exploit your uniqueness in the servanthood of other individuals. That means putting your face out there. I saw a change in my friend before she was even publicly sharing. And the same thing happened to me. Before I publicly started sharing, people started noticing things in me that I didn't see in myself yet. They were following along. Number 2, what are you passionate about? What does that look like? In the beginning, as you're sharing products, you might be like, I just need to get my products covered. If I could just get my products covered, that would be fantastic. And that is a great spot to start. But I want to encourage you, and I prayerfully will cast a bigger picture for you tonight, that don't think so small in the menial. Think of the masses that will be blessed because of your story. And you keep sharing your story. So what are you passionate about? What problem are you helping to solve? your third question, what do you love to research? If we were to talk and I would call Stacy, I'm like, Stacy, what are you learning about this week? What's that thing that Stacy is like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I just learned whatever that looks like. Those are great posts to share. You're adding value to other people because of the things you're learning. I feel like my whole first 3 and 4 months of my Plexus coming out party, as I was sharing, everything was so new to me. Almost every post sounded like, did you know that there's this thing called Candida? And I would like share. Almost every post of mine was, did you know? Did you? I didn't know. So my assumption was nobody else knew. So as I was learning these little things here and there, just sharing what I found that I was learning was adding value to other people. Now, I'm not the expert. We don't have to be. Praise God. We're not called to be experts. We have this great health quiz link now. Let me tell you, that's the bomb. Okay. It takes the guesswork out of it for us. But when you're adding value to others, John Maxwell says, you will never take advantage of them. And I love that. This is your next question. What have you had results in? And I'm not talking weight loss. Reset is fantastic. People are having insane results in 3 days. Don't discount the 6+ pounds. I'm going to plug a little compliant post here, which is so hard to do because, man, my story is so not compliant, right? But learn to tell stories. Share the emotional side of things. When you're sharing how it felt, how you feel now, and what you've experienced, you're going with the feel, felt, found. That should be the whole synopsis of everything you share. This is how I felt. This is how I feel now. And this is what I found along the way. When you're sharing your story, 95% of people will relate to the emotional component of your story over facts, science, or any jargon literature that you can throw out. And if you're trying to be an expert, that can't be duplicated. It can't. And you want to look at what you're doing. Is that something that you want your team to be doing? What's something that you have results in? All right, number 5. What is something that someone would pay you for? If they were going to go and you're like, oh my gosh, Mary is so good at, I would love for Mary to come help me in this and I would pay her, whatever. And I want to swing back around to your social media pages, your personal pages and what that looks like. If someone goes to your social media page, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, will they be very clear on who you are? Will they be clear on what you stand for? Because diluted focus equals diluted results. So if you aren't focused on who you are, if you aren't focused on what you're passionate about, if you aren't focused on that message that you want to get across, if you aren't focused on how to add value, then that can cause confusion. And people won't know that their gut girl or their gut guy is right there in their newsfeed. So that goes to helping solve the problem. If you're sharing your story and you're sharing multiple times throughout the day, because there's different audiences throughout the day, you cannot overshare. Now, I will tell you, you can overshare product images every time. People will not relate to a product, a cap, even our branding's beautiful. It's fantastic, amen. But for you to only be posting product images there's no emotional connection. That comes across as being salesy and spammy, and I'm here to tell you, people will fly right by it. Eventually, they might even mute you or unfollow you or unfriend you. And you just lost people that you potentially could have a huge impact in their life, in their health, but also in their finances. Don't discount the power of sharing the business and what Plexus has done in your life as well. That's where the story matters. Sharing those little things, those little wins add up to really big ones. Ed Milet is one of our favorite podcast guys. Okay, everybody know who Ed Milet is or aware of who he is? He has a book. Jennifer Leith does not know. Oh, I'm hooking you up. You're gonna love him. All right, he has a new book out right now. It's called The Power of One More. It's incredible. It is a really, really good read. I'd strongly recommend that if you haven't picked it up, pick it up. He talks about what that power of one more looks like. And for us, one of my prayers is simply that God would allow me the ability to bless one more family. One more family. See, I believe that when you bless a mama, her household changes. Her marriage changes. For generations to come, her children will be changed because Jen is taking the steps with her health and with her MTHFR thing. Because see, I've been following. She's learning something new. She's sharing what she's learning. She's adding value with these recipes. She's opening eyes to the impact that it's not just adults that could struggle with this. But now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, well, my kids. She's breaking off generational curses from her children. And not just in her house, but in ours. Because she is finding her own voice and uniqueness. And when you tap into your uniqueness, remember, it creates you to be unstoppable. There's not another person on the planet that's like you. That's your gift. That's your talent. Is you're unique in yourself. So in Ed's book, The Power of One More, he talks about a couple of things that start to happen with people as they're just growing and they're learning and they're expanding and they're sharing. And it's just that mentality of one more post, one more thing to learn about, one more family to bless. So when you're sharing on social media, always in the back of your head, remember who you were before Plexus. Remember what it felt like when your blood sugars were so jacked up that you would flip out on your kids for spilling milk on the table because your hormones were jacked up. Remember what it felt like when your husband would get super frustrated with you at like 8:15 after the kids went to bed and you're like, babe, I'm touched out. I'm going to bed. Remember what that felt like. Remember when you didn't have the funds to go on a date night. Remember what it felt like when you were watching others have success with something that you knew nothing about and how skeptical you were? Because you're like, that just sounds too good to be true. That's somebody's crystal light. But because you got educated and informed and you raised your own awareness, because somebody cared enough to share with you. That's the mantle that you get with Plexus. You don't have to do anything in Plexus. You get to. You get to share life-changing products. I think back to those years when if I hadn't had that friend share with me, I know that I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you today. When you've laid on gurneys in emergency rooms and had end-of-life conversations with your husband because you just didn't know what tomorrow held, you get to the end of your rope. When you're at the end of your rope, it's a really beautiful place to be because you're so desperate that you'll try anything, even a little pink drink. And then the but God happens. Because your eyes get opened up to the reality that there's a whole world out there that is waiting for you to find your voice. So I want you to hear that your story matters. What you share matters. Don't discount what your story looks like, and don't compare stories to others. We know that that is the single greatest thief of joy. But I am here to tell you that is a dream crusher and killer, is when you start comparing journeys or stories. So keep sharing, keep educating. One of the things we like to talk about on our side, on our team, is the 3 E's for posting on social media. You want to educate, engage, and entertain. We now, with social media, only have 8 seconds of people's attention span before they scroll through. That's why reels are so popular. They're so engaging, they're educating, and they're entertaining. In a rapid amount of time, you can get a lot of information. There's even TikTok commercials now. Have you seen that? I learned that on TikTok. So how are you adding value? I want you to go back to your questions and kind of just go through them on your list. Take some time. Write down those things that you're passionate about. Share your voice and share unapologetically. Because I am here to tell you, there is one more man, woman, child, or family that is waiting to hear your message. And don't stop sharing. You never know what someone else's timeline looks like. And the longer I've been at this, and I'm sure Sarah and Jen could confess too, that you have people that come back around. And it's because you sharing is building consistent trust in others. That's what social media allows you to do. With over 80% of all online sales right now happening through sharing on social media. 80% of online sales are happening because friends are making referrals. That's incredible. And I could go on and on and on, and I could talk till I was blue in the face about this, but I want to leave you with that last little bit. And I want you to take a sticky note, because I love me some sticky notes. They're everywhere. And on your sticky note, you're going to write, there you go, Lisa's got it. I am unstoppable when I tap into my uniqueness. And then you don't just put that sticky note up in one spot. You put it up everywhere. Look at all, I love the Sherry. Oh, that's my jam. She's got a board of sticky notes. Because it's true. When you tap into your uniqueness, you are unstoppable. I want to encourage you, dream really big. Don't stop at the blessed 3. Because if all we ever talk about is blessed 3, that's all we're going to get. But what if there was 6, 9, 12, 2,000? What if the plans that God has for you to prosper and not perish, plans to give you hope and an incredible future? And it's not even a what if, it's a I know that that's what his plans are. And that includes being yourself. Share authentically, add value, and have fun with social media.
So good. As I was listening to you, I was thinking, okay, when somebody goes through a really hard health situation like what you went through, and then they start to see results, and then they want to start sharing, it makes sense to me that people that struggle that way would say yes and want to try the products. But it also makes sense to me that people would be quitters and not want to keep going and not have the results that you've had. So I want to ask you this. what do you do as you're trying to help one more when you're making such a huge difference? I mean, I know you've got lots of leaders on your team, lots of families' lives changed. You've done so much just with being every day showing up. But what do you do with someone that wants to quit on themselves?
Oh, that's such a good question because I feel like that's something that I was. And I will say I was, and I actually made a post where I said I was a recovering quitter and procrastinator. And my husband made me delete recovering. He made me edit my own post because he's like, that's not who you are. That's not your identity. Because I'm not a quitter anymore and I'm not a procrastinator anymore. So I'm not going to identify with that. But I very much relate to it. So I can impart wisdom in an area that I'm very fluent in, which was hide the scale. Yes, do the reset. Okay, day 4, do your measurements, take your pictures, get on the scale, then hide that sucker for 30 days. Do not get back on that thing because it doesn't identify you. There's so much happening at the cellular level that is not going to take into account the number on a scale. So I offer valuable tips that I've learned along the way and words of encouragement. A lot of people, you guys, are not used to being cheered on just for drinking their water. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not used to having words of affirmation spoken over them or given to them. We live in a community and we live in a culture where it's a microwave society. And if it doesn't happen fast enough, it just wasn't for me. It wasn't supposed to work. So that's where if we're educating friends with our posts, with information, with follow up, please do not sign a friend up and then never reach back out to check on them. This is not a purse. This is not lipstick or some really cute buttery lemon leggings, okay? There is a right and a not so right way to take the products. Plug them into your pages, add them to those pages, tag them in relevant posts, and then start messages for encouragement. Those little things can really help to grow community. It's one of the things that we're seeing more and more is people aren't as brand loyal anymore as they used to be. But you know what they are loyal to? A community, a positive, encouraging, uplifting culture that builds and breathes belief in them. Because it's easy to quit. It's easy. You could be one of the statistics that said it just didn't work for me. It worked for everybody else, but it just didn't work for me. But I'm here to tell you, the longer you're at this, the more bolder you're going to get, the more braver and the more courageous. Eventually, you're going to be able to say without a shadow of a doubt, you can't tell me this stuff doesn't work. And you can't tell me nobody makes money at network marketing either. Because you yourself are gaining confidence because of your competence. The more you do it, the better you're going to be at it. So I just love to run challenges, Jen. We do lots of different steps, challenges. We're keeping things simple and easy to start because people don't need to know the whole run of the staircase. They just need to know what's that next step. So for those of you who are on that green scale of the color and you're like, I need to know all the things, I'm here to tell you, not everybody needs to know all the things. They just need to know that next little chunk of the puzzle to make that next step forward.
You were like completely legit because I did not tell you I was going to ask you that. And you were all like, well, let me tell you, Jennifer. I was like, okay, so good. And here's the worst part, guys. I asked her yesterday if she would get on the Zoom. So that's who she is right now. Make sure you're following Jenna. And then what I want you guys to do is go to your social media and I want you to write this. I am unstoppable because of my uniqueness, or when I tap into my uniqueness, and then ask, so tell me what's unique about you. And you're going to get some great answers and learn about the people in your network. So I want you guys to all go do that in honor of what we just heard. I always give my own self goosebumps. That's just messed up. I'm just like, that was so inspiring. Okay. Thank you, Jenna. That was amazing. I'm going to post this on YouTube. I'm going to steal half of what you said. And I bought Ed Milet's book. Anything else? Oh, and this was the big takeaway for me. 80% of online sales come from social media. Get out of here. Like, Hello, and it's free. We get to use it for free. Sarah, do you have anything you want to add before I finish up?
So I just want to say really quick, Jenna, I want to acknowledge the fact that when you're brave and you share those vulnerable pictures and stories, I think that's what draws so many people in. And I love that you touched on your story is yours, but somebody else might need to hear what you have to say. So I just want to say thank you. I love when you always find creative and wonderful ways to reshare your same story. You know, your testimony, it's ongoing. But every time I stop and read your testimony, I'm like, there she did it again. She stepped out and was brave and courageous in sharing something that is hard or scary. And I didn't want to share hard pictures and admit that I had eaten myself into oblivion this year. And because people like you take that bold step to say we're all human and we all have something that we don't want really people to know or acknowledge, putting that out there helps us to be brave too. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Amen.
What she said. And also, your living room looks like a movie set. Thank you again. We appreciate you. And I'll post the recording. You guys have a great night. Again, Jenna, million kisses and hugs. See you in Hawaii. Bye.